Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the final plenary of the day. And this is a precedent-setting workshop. It's the first time the Summit has had a session on cancer prevention. So we're quite excited to have this. Cancers, well, prostates are big this year, big in the news. With recent news about PSA testing guidelines and a headline from yesterday's fabulous 24 newspaper, sleeping around lowers the risk of prostate cancer. So I'm not sure if we'll delve on these topics, but I'm pleased to introduce a stellar panel. First of all, I'd like to introduce Carolyn Gotay. She's a professor at UBC, where she's also the director of the Cancer Prevention Center. In 2008, she was appointed as the Canadian Cancer Society Chair in Cancer Primary Prevention. She has more than 3 decades of research and experience in cancer prevention, quality of life, and survivorship. She's going to preface the afternoon's discussion. It's going to be a 5-presentation interactive opportunity for dialogue, and we encourage everybody to pipe up and participate. So we'll only use this mic. Is that fine? So welcome, Carolyn, and she'll be followed by Stacey Berisavac, and then Michelle Reid and Tinus Wasserfall, whom I'll introduce as they approach.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here, and we really developed this workshop based on some comments that we got from some men in the gay community who asked questions like, what are the cancer rates in gay men? And we've tried to address some of those questions, and we found many more questions along the way, and I think you'll be interested in the topics that we'll be talking about today. So we wanted to start out with sort of a little, I guess, a warm-up exercise, because when it comes to cancer, there are many myths about cancer. So there are a lot of misconceptions. There are things that are just widely held but wrong beliefs, and so we thought we would air a few of them. You may not share any of these misconceptions, but you might. So let me just take it away and start with the first one, which is people didn't used to get cancer. It's a modern disease. Do you agree with that? No. Well, it's really a myth. I mean, humans have always gotten cancer. Cellular changes that lead to cancer are increased with aging as our cells start making more mistakes, and all of the things we've been exposed to over our lifetime start taking their toll on our bodies. But we certainly do have more cancers, both in terms of rates and absolute numbers in today's world, because some of it is that we just, in the old days, and in many developing countries, in fact, people just don't live long enough to enter the high cancer years. So as we are getting older, fortunately, we have the privilege of growing older. We also have, unfortunately, an increased chance of developing cancer. So you can see many, almost 90%, are in adults over the age of 50, and a large percentage over 70. A lot of the risks, though, that are leading to the cancers that we see, particularly in the developed world, are more recent as well. So the kinds of cancers that we're getting now and are influenced by things like smoking, sedentary lifestyles, obesity. We'll be talking more about those. Okay, another myth. Most cancer is caused by genetic factors. There's really nothing you can do to prevent it. It's what you're born with. This is a very common myth. I hear this a lot when I talk to community groups. I wonder if some of you think that's true. Well, if so, maybe you'd be interested by the fact that only about 5% of cancers are based on family history, genetic breaks related to family history, based on what we know now. Now, we may know more in the future. We're learning more about genetics all the time. But that certainly doesn't change the fact that the majority of cancers that we see in the population are due to things that happen to us after we're born that aren't part of our germ cell. So one thing you should consider, though, is let's say you do have a very strong family history. You know that you have a genetic defect that's going to increase your chances of cancer. It does happen. Doesn't mean you're going to get it. And if you don't have any genetic risks or any family history, that doesn't mean you're not going to get it. So just keep in mind, your genes maybe, they sort of give you a set of cards that you start with when you're playing the game of life, but they don't dictate the outcome, and they don't dictate what kind of cards you're going to be picking up as you live your life. You can improve your hand, or you could make it worse. Okay, so what about the environment? Okay, so she says it's not genetics. Okay, the environment. What about all the things? We know there's pollutants. We know there's bisphenol A, there's et cetera, et cetera. So what about the environment? Isn't that causing why we're seeing so many cancers these days? Well, it does make a difference, yes. There have been environmental factors that have been associated with cancers living in big cities, like many of us do here in Vancouver. We don't have superhighways here that go around the city. That's seen as a great virtue for Vancouver city planning, but it means that we get to breathe all the exhaust of all those trucks that have to go right through our city. Well, that asbestos and smoke in the air have definitely been associated with increased cancer. Spending a lot of time in the sun, an environmental factor, definitely related to skin cancer. So it's a factor, for sure, but a relatively small one. Does not explain the biggest proportion of cancers. Okay, another one. All right, how about green tea, blueberries? There's got to be a magic bullet for preventing cancer. What about these magic foods that we see? Well, green tea and blueberries are both great foods. However, there's really no single cancer prevention diet. Your risk is affected by what you eat, but there's not a magic diet, there's not a magic food. But we've pretty well found that high numbers of fruits and vegetables, lower amounts of meat, particularly red meat, decrease risk. So there, as far as I know, there's never been a study that shows that people eat too many fruits and vegetables. So keep that as, I've never seen that. So keep that in mind. You know, this is a good season for some nice spiced pumpkin food. And so those are good things, but there's nothing magic. Okay, another myth. I would have to make huge changes to prevent cancer. I don't want to give up everything. I don't want to give up everything that makes my life worth living. If I try to spend all my time doing changes to prevent cancer, I'm going to be miserable and my quality of life will go through the floor. I do hear this. But the fact is that you don't have to make huge changes to appreciate a really considerable benefit. So even making small changes can have a big impact. So if you cut down on the amount of alcohol that you drink a day, if you do drink alcohol, there's pretty much a linear relationship between the amount of alcohol people drink and the risk of certain cancers. So that's a straight line. If you cut the line, you're cutting your risk. Doesn't mean you have to become a teetotaler. Give up all our great BC wine. Add some extra servings of fruits and vegetables, you know, add by one day or one serving. Okay, you don't have to become a vegan. There's nothing that says that's going to prevent cancer, but just make a little change. Move more. We've increasingly recognized it's not only physical activity that makes you sweat and makes you really get your heart beating. It's sitting up and not sitting down all day long. So get up, take breaks, do little things like take the stairs. What I do is when I go to a mall or something like that, I take the space for the parking as far as I can from the door. Instead of trying to wander around back and forth to try to find a space opening up, I figure it's better for my car, it's less likely to get dinged, and I get a little bit of extra exercise. Very little, but even things that are small changes make a positive difference. Okay, isn't there already a cure for cancer? And isn't it out there somewhere? We know, you read all the comments to just about every article that you see online that has anything to do with cancer, and you'll find people saying, we already know how to cure cancer. Well, it would be nice to think that there was, but even though the internet touts many different miracle cures, there isn't one out there. And believe me, if there was one and physicians knew how to do it, they would be going for that Nobel Prize. So a lot of times here it's a conspiracy of the pharmaceutical company, and doctors want to keep on having patients. Well, you know what? We're still going to end up developing some kind of sickness, and we're going to die. We have not figured out immortality yet. But so if we cure cancer, those docs are going to find something else to do. They're not trying to keep their business going. So there really is not a mystery cure that's out there. Certainly some cancers have shown significant benefits in survival rates. One of them here is testicular cancer. So that, at this point, testicular cancer, if it's found early, there are very effective strategies to treat it. It's very curable. The same is true for many childhood cancers that have really increased in survival rates over the past couple decades. And then other cancers, we don't really have to cure them because we know how to prevent them. So lung cancer, which is the leading cause of cancer death in men and women in most of the developed world, we know how to prevent it. If people stop smoking, using tobacco, we could largely prevent the vast majority of lung cancer. Not all of it, but most of it. So prevention is better than cure when we can do it, and we can. So we don't know the causes, all the causes of cancer. I wouldn't pretend that we do. And we don't know, how to actually help people to make the changes we know could prevent cancer. But stuff we do know. So there's a lot of room for research and for moving forward. And we are guided by the things that we know make a difference. I'll just show you this, which is kind of interesting to give you the spectrum of the modifiable risk factors. That's what we call risk factors you can do something about. They're not the things that you're born with, like age and gender, et cetera. But you can see that a lot of cancers we could modify the behaviors, say a third of them due to smoking, and so on and so forth. And we'll be touching on most of these factors at some point in one or the other of us in the presentations. So that adds up to is that about 50% of all the cancers we see could be prevented. Some people put the estimate even higher if we put tobacco in there. So there's a great potential there, and the amount of the burden, the economic burden, even if we want to get down to dollars and cents, much less the human cost, the psychosocial cost, and the cost to our society is enormous. Yet we could really do something about it if we apply just what we know now. So that's really what motivates me in the work I do, which is in cancer prevention, as well as my colleagues.